Welcome to the podcast, Monsters. I'm your host, Doug Bartlett, a serial entrepreneur, founder and owner of Bartlett Roofing. If you have a mind for business or you want to grow, we are the podcast for you. Welcome back to the podcast, Monsters. We're here today to talk about infinite opportunities. I'm here today with Roman Burlo, our VP of Sales, and Grayson Colton, regional sales managers. You know, I want to start by talking just briefly about what I view as infinite opportunities. I see life as an infinite opportunity. I think people are stuck in, the glass half empty mindset, and I always view, life from the glass half full. Very optimistic about life and very optimistic about everything that happens.
Can you honestly
in life.
say you always viewed life as glass half full?
No, I haven't always. Where I really learned that there's lots of opportunity out there was back in 1998. I was selling real estate at the time and building homes, and a guy I knew from high school came into our office. Hadn't seen him since high school, and he was selling voice stream cellular phones. He sold like 5 lines of service in our office in like an hour, and his name was Brian. I said, Brian, man, how much did you make doing this in the last hour? He's like, I'm like $200 a piece. It's like, you just made $1,000 in the last hour? Are you kidding me? This is crazy. It's amazing. And he's like, yeah, this is awesome, man. I'm just every office I walk into, people are buying these things. Because cellular was just starting to take off, and they had like $39.99 for unlimited minutes at that time. And so, a lot of us had cell phones already, but we were paying a lot more than that. That was a crazy good price.
Yeah.
And so, I just called their corporate office and I said, hey, I've got an office on the Napa Caldwell Boulevard. It was like facing the Napa Caldwell Boulevard, but it was like the backdoor office to our real estate office. And my mom was the real estate broker there. And so I knew that she wouldn't care if people came in this back door, because the only office you could get into from that back door was my office.
Okay.
And so I just called them up and I was like, I think I could sell a lot of your cell phones just by putting a banner up, and I'll sell real estate, keep building houses.
Just build retail spaces, which you're
it was a retail frontage.
Yeah.
But it was just a 10 by, like maybe 12 by 12 office. It wasn't very big.
Really? The entire office?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like my office was like 12 by 12.
Okay.
And I was like, I could get some pegboard.
I mean, that's a regular bedroom right there.
Yeah. Yeah. It was about the size of it.
That was your entire office?
That was my entire store when I started the cell phone business.
Small beginnings.
Yeah. And they were like, oh, you got a spot on the Napa Caldwell Boulevard? That's like the second busiest street in the state. I was like, yep, no problem. I got it. And so they're like, oh, well, you need to talk to our dealer manager instead of because I was thinking like part-time job or something. And they're like, you need to talk to our dealer manager. And I almost didn't even talk from that point forward. I called up their dealer manager. This chick named Heidi. She was a cool chick. I called up and I started talking to Heidi, and it was like she basically like put me in business. Like I wasn't even asking the right questions to be in business. It was just good timing, but because she was
just like assuming that's what you wanted, she's just pushing you towards it.
Well, her mindset was she's looking for dealers with retail opportunities. Like that was her whole job, is to set up dealers.
You were an opportunity for her.
Yes, I was definitely an opportunity for her. And so I was like, I've got this spot on the Napa Caldwell Boulevard. And from that point, she was like, oh, that's awesome. You know what? We can bring you out some banners, and we're going to bring you out your first 10 cell phones to sell. We'll make them free, and you don't even have to buy the phones to sell, because you're going to get a commission on the back end, get you going, and we're going to bring out some accessories for those phones.
Wow.
And I literally went and bought a 4-foot by 8-foot piece of pegboard and screwed it to the wall and got some hooks and set some phone boxes up there with a couple of accessories and put a banner out, and people started walking in the door. And I was having 2, 3, 4 people every single day walking in the door.
Yep.
And I was like, holy smokes, man, I'm making I'm not doing nothing. I'm just still sitting here selling real estate, and I just take a 20-minute break anytime somebody walks in the door, and boom, there's an extra $200. And, 1998, that was pretty good money.
Yeah.
Especially 2, 3, 4 times a day. So, from there, I was like, okay, this is way too good. And so I actually rented a space on the other side from the real estate office in the same strip from landlord, and put in a bigger store that was 30 by 30 store.
Yeah.
And so it was a lot bigger space. And started hiring employees, and then we ended up with I think it was 27 stores over the course of the next 4 years, spread out over Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and Texas.
I've never even heard that story.
No?
Like, I knew that you did that, right? I knew that you sold cell phones, you operate cell phone stores, and you just told me, like, yeah, we're in a couple different states, like, and you've always just, like, brushed over it really quickly. I've never heard the, like,
He was a
full
cell
in-depth
phone
story.
mogul.
Yeah, cell phone mogul, yeah, seriously.
It blew up. The company was called Wireless USA, and, I designed a logo, got in, and by the time we were done with that thing, we were doing $100,000 a month in advertising. They were paying for co-op funds, so they were paying 50% of all of our advertising, and, it just, like, blew up.
You need to start telling that story more often here at work.
Yeah. That was fun. It was a fun ride. I learned a lot. I mean, I definitely made some mistakes. And at the end of that, I ended up going bankrupt. So I definitely made some mistakes.
It's all a learning experience.
Learn a little wisdom.
Yeah.
Well, VoiceStream sold out to another company based out of Germany. They didn't pay a whole bunch of commissions, and the attorney was like, yeah, you might be able to win this, but you're going to have to win it out of Germany, and then you're going to have to figure out how to collect on it from this company. And so it's going to probably take 3 years, maybe 4.
It's tough.
And in the meantime, I had just taken a $500,000 hit. And so I had to downsize when that happened to like half my stores. I closed up half my stores just to survive.
Wow.
And that was about 6 months before 9/11.
Oh, wow.
man.
And so I survived the $500,000 hit, but then 9/11 hit, and our sales dropped to 10%, maybe 20% of what they had previously been.
Wow.
So, and for the most part, everything was just outside of your control. There wasn't anything that you could have done, or looking back, is there like a whole bunch that you feel like you could have done to keep that business going?
I mean, it would do better now if I was running it, but even now, I'm not so sure I could have survived it with the things that happened.
Yeah.
Like I maybe could have.
There was a lot of changes that happened during the time, especially with the cell phone industry. I mean, the companies were getting bought up and bought out because there were, like you said, there were smaller companies everywhere, and the bigger companies started just wiping things out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really
I wasn't
quickly.
really facing that issue. I was actually a master dealer by that time, which means I was signing up other distributors underneath me, and I mean, it was going really good. I was making $100,000 a month. Yeah, I mean, there was a major hit with 500,000 that was lost from them not paying commissions because they sold out, and they were just like, we're going to invoke a clause that says we can have a withholding account, and it was something that VoiceStream had never done over the 4 years that I've been working with them.
Yeah.
And then 9/11 hit, sales tanked, and I literally took all the money that I had saved and all of my assets, and thinking, okay, this is going to turn around. This thing after 9/11 is not going to last. And it was kind of weird because there was different reactions in different parts of the country.
Yeah.
My understanding from at the time was that people on the East Coast were suddenly buying lots of cell phones, just because
They wanted to be able to call their loved ones. They wanted to be able to check on people.
In the West, cell phone sales tanked, just tanked.
Really?
And so, I remember sitting there watching that video going, dang, that is crazy. I was in my house and, where the planes flew into the towers.
Yeah.
And I went into my stores, into my main store, and it was a ghost town.
Wow.
And normally there was people in there like all day, basically, because we carried like everything. That was the store you walked into. If you wanted something that you couldn't find someplace else, ours was the store to come to. You want the light up faceplate. You want us to do custom modifications to your phone. You want the case for
You're
the
like
phone.
Pimp My Ride for cell phones.
Light up antennas. Leather cases for discontinued phones that hadn't been working, that hadn't been sold for years.
You had those big, block phones.
I had leather cases for brick phones. I remember the day I sold the last one of those. I was like, oh, thank God. I thought I was never going to sell that thing.
Who still wants
That stock sitting there.
Yeah, I just wanted to be that guy that had everything,
Yeah.
And it was great business, but I definitely could have done some things better and, been a little more controlled with it. But, I don't know. I guess the moral of the story there is that it's like I realized at that point when I started that store that there was, opportunities out there that were abounding, and it's just you just had to find the right niche, right? You had to find the right spot to put it in. There's businesses that are hungry for things, and there's people that are hungry for things, and I was like, okay. So then I started looking at everything in life as like some type of an opportunity. So every time I see a problem, I just look at it and say, there's an opportunity. There's got to be an opportunity there someplace. For example, right now, the airline industries suck right now, in my opinion. Like, I've been delayed, 2 out of my last 5 flights.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. there is an opportunity there for the right entrepreneur
Yep.
to somehow get involved in the airline business and figure out how to make some changes there and turn some things around. You know, private jets, I think, is a huge opportunity. I think it's exploding right now. You know, so if you see a problem, there is an opportunity for you, and you should be recognizing problems as opportunities. And so, when I believe infinite opportunity, it's because I know that there's infinite numbers of problems that people are going to have, and there's ways to make things better.
Mindset is really the most important thing about this, because in your mind, you're not letting yourself fall into that negative mind space. You convince yourself that there's always a way out. And I think there's something else to be said on top of that, because your story is so interesting, because it was a story of success and also a story of failure, right?
That goes into what I was going to say is, where was the opportunity there, right? Like that story, we need the rest of that story.
I think.
Right? Because all of these things happen to you. You go bankrupt, right? And obviously you're not bankrupt right now. And obviously hindsight being 2020, right? It's clear now to see where your opportunity was at, right? And what you end up inevitably chasing and how you became who you are now, right? Mm-hmm. But in the moment when you were experiencing all those things and you were experiencing that heavy weight of all of these negative things that are outside of your control happening to you, right? How do you get through that? And where do you go find the opportunity there? And how did how did your mindset shift?
Yeah, I mean, just to name a few of the lessons off, like one of the lessons I took away from that is, you don't want to build a business if you can figure out a way that you can build a business that is not dependent upon the economy, then that's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Right. And that business was very dependent upon the economy. You know, I learned also to make sure that, my financial control measures were more in place and done better. And so it's something that I've, been pretty concerned about for most of this business, and not so concerned about now because I really trust the person that I have leading it. Shay, shout out. You're doing a crazy good job. Proud of you. There's, there's the communication, the presence that you have to have, the relationships, the honesty that needs to happen, because there was a failure in what had gone on, with our stores in Texas. I had somebody else running those stores, and it didn't go well there. Mm-hmm. And so I should have had more of a presence and more of an influence. And I should have been down there more and developed more of a relationship with those people, instead of just relying on the person that was running it to have that relationship. So lots of lessons. And so that was the opportunity for me at that time in that failure, was to learn those lessons. They didn't really sink home for a while, because to be blunt, I went into, pretty serious depression for a while. I was pretty solidly depressed for, most of the year after that, after the bankruptcy, with good reason. I'd lost everything.
This is that mindset test. When you're talking about a monster mindset, this is how you're defining. This is where you start getting tested in your life, because you experience success and then you experience great failure. And this is where people are made, right? This is where champions are made at this point.
Yeah, this was your boot camp in resolve.
Yeah, I think that's one place where most people fail that go into business for themselves is the biggest failure is the unwillingness to try again. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Because, my next go after the cell phone business put me right back into building houses and real estate. And that was really good timing, because it was just it was just right during that boom time before everything crashed in 2007, late 2007 and 2008. And so here I was selling houses and building houses, and I was going gangbusters. I was knocking down, a house a week just by doing a little pro rata study and sending it out to a bunch of investors, and boom, house sold.
Wow.
Done. And, I opened up a property management company at that time also, because I didn't have a good property manager that could do it.
That sounds about like you.
Yeah, right. So I was selling them and managing the property on the back end, because, there wasn't somebody else that was going to do it the way I felt like it needed to be done to make sure that these investors that were buying these houses were feeling comfortable about it. So, that was a great opportunity, but, I learned something from the first time, which was I was a little more cautious with, how I managed my money, so that when the economy crashed in late 2007, I had a solid year's worth of income saved up. I had a very low house payment because I had remodeled a house and, been through some challenges on that front. But, it didn't knock me down immediately. I ended up having to do some different things to try to make sure I stayed alive. Went back and did some framing and whatever, but was what it was, and it worked out in the end. But yeah, there's the opportunity though is you're either experiencing, challenges as opportunity to address and you can build a business off of, or you're experiencing failures as an opportunity to learn.
That's right.
So why don't you guys, share with me a little bit about, situations where, you feel like you've experienced opportunity in your life and also failures that maybe you've experienced that taught you something.
I guess I'll start out with maybe a failure that taught me something. I got into another sales business and I was just kind of at a dead end. I didn't know what I was going to do. And one of my buddies was in the transportation business and the freight business, like a brokerage. He told me about it. He said, you should come over here and be like a broker with us. You just move freight around the country. And at that time, I didn't get it. I was selling copiers and ink and toner to people, business to business and things. And I just get it. I said, I don't get it. At least, what is this freight thing you're talking about? He goes, it's very simple. So I have a customer that needs to move a product anywhere in the country, and they need a truck. And these trucks don't know about my customer, so I connect them both, and I charge the customer one amount, and I pay the truck another amount, and I keep a difference. And I go, that's a thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so, anybody, right? And so in my head, I was like, if I could get enough customers, and I just talk to them on the phone, then I could just sit at my house and just do this thing all day long. And just talk to them on the phone and move their stuff around the country just by connecting people. This was my skill. Now I developed in a long time. I could connect people all day long. So I started and I went into his company and they gave me a job and they had an interesting setup plan and they walked in and all the people, including my buddy, they were sitting there. And I remember the compensation plan. He was getting paid like 25% commission and like a salary and whatever. And I'm coming from a commission job and I sat down with the owner and said, listen, I'm not interested in your commission plan at all. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to be in this office. It was so depressing. I was like, I don't want to be in this office. And as a matter of fact, I had another full-time job selling copiers from 8 to 5, right? Copy machines. And I'm over here at this office talking with him. And I said, 1, I'm going to do this mobily and I'll not come to the office. And 2, I don't want your salary. I'll take 50%. Right? And they were like, okay, let's do it, guy. Right? Because to them, it was like this, sometimes you just see too much confidence and you're like, let's just see what the hell happens. What do we got to lose, right? It's not like we're paying them, right? And so I went straight to research. I jumped online, jumped on Google, on YouTube, and I started asking questions about the freight industry. How does it work? What do I need to do? Eventually, I started calling customers. Hey, you got things to move. And it would be anything. I mean, I would call farmers to see how they move their manure and if they needed help. That's how low I stoop.
That's smart.
I mean, that's how low I stoop.
That's you looking for all the opportunity
I'm looking
possible.
for all the opportunities.
Yeah.
I had spreadsheets of customers, just lists and lists, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, I remember. And then I have spreadsheets of carriers, the truckers, right? Just hundreds of them. And I started organizing them by state and how they travel and what kind of equipment they have. It's all started making sense. For the entire first year, and I worked every single day while I was driving around in my car hitting businesses up all day long. I sat with my laptop in my seat, on my passenger seat, and I had my cell phone, and I bought me a headset. So in between my routes, I had my list, my spreadsheet list out, and I made a commitment every single day to call 20 new customers, and I figured out what my customers were the day before that I needed to call. So it was really organized because I didn't have time for this, right? And then I would have 20 that I'd follow up with that I have already called that went from cold to warm, basically, to hot, right?
So you did 20 cold calls and you did 20 follow-ups.
And then 20 follow-ups to get more customers. The first year of doing this all year long, first year I made $7,000.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough.
The whole year.
Yeah, that's rough.
That was what I filed taxes on.
Yeah.
Right?
But you believed in it. You believed
Not
in the
only did I
opportunity.
believe in it and I believed that it could happen, I got some advice right before I started, because one thing I started to do is I started seeing counsel. I started gathering information, right? So I started talking to people in the industry, and I talked to it was a guy named Dave Van Lith, and he's got a trucking company, DVL. They haul cattle. And he told me, he goes, Roman, it's such a great industry. He goes, it's very profitable and very lucrative if you can stick it out. He says, most people don't make it because they just don't stick it out. You need to go at least a year before you start seeing profit. And I was like, okay. So in my mind, I was already conditioned not to succeed in my year because he already told me that I'm going to have to work so hard. So I didn't think I was anything special and going to do something that most people just don't do within their first year. My first year, I made $7,000. January, my second year, the first month, I made $7,000.
Nice.
February was $7,000 plus. And so I was really good at that. And I've recruited 10 people to come and do this with me. And I tried to explain it to him even when I started, like, hey guys, like you're going to do this for a year and not make money. And the people that I came on, they're like, oh yeah, man, yeah. No problem. I'll do it because they were able to see my success. I was able to show in my checks and say, look, I mean, there was one load that I moved. I charged $10,000. It was a phone call for me to say, I'll move this for you. And I called that truck and said, I need you to come pick this thing up and move it for me. My cut was $10,000. So,
nice.
Of course, people would be very curious and want to be participating in such an industry. I became that good that I built good enough relationship to be able to move very expensive things. And that's why I was able to charge so much, because you had to take very special attention to them, right? And have the right people on a job.
Right.
All these people that started, they just didn't last. I mean, 2-3 months, they just wash out. And I just couldn't figure out what it was. And most people needed, what they told me afterwards is like, I just need a base. I just need a foundation. And all of them told me is like, yeah, it doesn't matter. I'm good. I'm going to be good for a year. I got income. I got savings. I got this. Let's make some money. And I'd say, great, let's go make some phone calls. And they make a phone call. I'm like, man, it's just not working. Everybody's got somebody that works for them. I go, of course they do. They wouldn't be in business if they didn't have anybody hauling their loads.
Right.
All right. You just get in there, and they couldn't figure out how. They're like, it's like impossible. They're already doing it. And I was like, no, it's not. It's a relationship business.
Yeah.
And there was a company out of Utah that they heard about me somehow. And they're like, wait, you know this guy? Because my buddy's looking for the job, and we're calling him like, hey, we're flying you out here. So him and I jumped on a plane and we flew out to Utah, and they put us up in hotels and started wine and dining us. And they're like, you should come over to us. And we started talking better numbers, higher percentage splits to where I'm keeping a large majority of what I do now. And those opportunities started opening up for me to where I was working a lot independently, and they just kind of said, hey, we have resources to give you whatever you need. Now I had CRMs. I had access to so many other web tools to help me do my job that the other company couldn't offer. And that's when I really just skyrocketed. And I think when I met you, when I married your niece and I started hanging around your family, I mean, that was the pinnacle of my success right there. I was making a 6-figure income from my couch,
right,
on the golf course. My brothers would make fun of me because I'd go golf whenever. Like, you want to golf? Yeah, sure, I'll go golf. But when the phone rang, I'm picking it up. And a good example for you is when we went on that family vacation. We went on the trip, and you guys were all going out on a boat, and I was going to go. I'm like, yeah, let's go on a boat. All of a sudden, my phone rang. And I said, guys, I'm not going. And you're like, you're going to miss out on a boat for work? And I said, have a good time. As soon as you guys came back, like, how was work? I made $3,000. How was the boat? All right. I'm not upset. Yeah, I'll go again another time. That was my attitude, and that's how I took care of my people. I sacrificed the boat trip to pick up the phone call to make that, but that's just how I was. I kept growing it, and when I met you, you brought me over to this side, and you said, "Come do this with me. Yeah, let's go do it together."
Yeah, it's good. I think that the takeaway there is that a lot of times you aren't prepared for opportunities.
Right,
and it requires a lot of personal growth. So even if you recognize opportunities, you have to be prepared for it. And a lot of times that means preparing yourself and who you are as a person.
That's right.
To be ready to capitalize on that and be at
I think that's the key. I think that's the key.
I think another side to it too is that like all your opportunities in that business are from a cold call sheet, right?
Yeah.
It's very similar to door knocking, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's just door after door after door after door, right? So the opportunity really is infinite.
That's right.
It really is endless. You just have to go chase down every rabbit hole. And you have to go play the numbers game. And you have to go find the opportunity that works for you.
I had to get good at it.
You have to develop your skill.
I had to understand how to talk to the other person on either line in order for them to even receive me. Because, I mean, I wasn't the only one who who does this. This wasn't a new thing, right? This is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Right.
There's people who do this. So I can imagine these companies getting phone calls every single day from people trying to do this. Just the same as in our roofing business. Every single day, some company's knocking on a door about something, right?
Yep.
What about you, Grayson? What's what's something that you've experienced in recognizing that life is an infinite opportunity? Where does that hit home the most for you?
If we say like the statement infinite opportunities, right? There really is an infinite amount of opportunities in my mind and in my belief system, right? So they can be around business, it can be around people and relationships, it can be around knowledge and information, like whatever it is that you're going for, there is literally an infinite amount of information and opportunities to everything that you touch, right? So I think when I really started like kind of paying attention to that as a concept was when I was probably like 14, 15 years old. And
really young, actually, to be recognizing that. Yeah,
I was really young. And I'm kind of like ahead of schedule on my life, in my opinion.
You're on a fast track.
Yeah, and it's I think a lot of it too is because of like the age that I grew up in, right? Like you're talking about, your business crashing and you going bankrupt after making $100,000 a month when 9/11 happened, right?
Yeah.
For context, when 9/11 happened, I was 5 years old at daycare.
Right.
And I was watching that on the TV.
Yeah.
And
I remember where I was.
My caretakers
I was at work.
my caretakers are freaking out, right? The adults are all freaking out and I'm like a child.
Wow.
And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, and I'm starting to get concerned because I don't understand what's going on at all, right? I have like no context. You're a successful business owner that's like going through bankruptcy, having to figure your life out, right? So, but again, so the age that I grew up in, I grew up with the age of YouTube and Google, and I learned how to use Google search function when I'm like 5 years old, right around that same time, right? So me being 14, 15 years old, I've just been exposed to so much more information at that point than 14, 15-year-olds from your day, right? Or 14 and 15-year-olds from your day, honestly, too, right? So it put me in this position where I was really curious about everything. And I was really curious about like life and how life works and how I'm going to be the person that I want to be or how I'm going to like self-actualize, right? And I started doing a lot of like YouTube research on like manifestation and spirituality and psychedelics and things like that, right? And I started really believing in this concept of manifestation, right? So the concept of manifestation is that whatever I really want, I can find a way to, right? So therefore, there is an infinite amount of opportunities for me to go chase down. I just have to be creative enough to think through the opportunity that I want to go find, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's almost right. In my mind, it's a little bit different than that. In my mind, manifestation isn't like I'm gonna find a way to make that. It's like pre-claiming it. Like I am thankful for this in my life, and then like it's kind of that law of attraction and manifestation kind of crossover there,
right?
Because if you're saying, I'm thankful for great relationships in my life, pretty soon you find that focus that you're putting into it every day of like where your mindset is at, that it's a great relationship and that's what you're telling yourself, suddenly it happens.
I just see everything, every single moment as an opportunity. It really, in my mind, right? Every single moment, your whole reality could change. It could shift, right? Things happen instantaneously, right? And it's this one opportunity or it's this one moment, right? And everything is that way. Every door is that way. Every conversation is that way. Every breath that you take is that way. And that's how I started thinking, literally when I was 15. So I decide I need to buy a car. So I'm at the car lot. I'm talking to this car salesperson. I'm like, hey, I want to be a sales rep, right? So he hires me on board right then and there. Right?
On the spot.
On the spot, yeah. He hires me right there because it's a commission-only sales job, right?
Sure.
They
Got the desire. Let's do it.
Yeah, and then I'm selling cars for 3 months. And one of my customers that I'm selling a car to is working in the solar industry. And he's like, hey, you should come sell solar. So, okay, now I'm going and selling solar, right? I wanted the change up. So the opportunities are just kind of always right there whenever you're paying attention to it, right? Whether it's a conversation from my customer saying, hey, I work at the solar company. You should come do it. You'd probably make a lot of money. Or me having the realization that I want a different job and then I can hop on the internet and find other sales jobs, right?
Yeah, I think that's like especially true of people in sales, and really at the end of the day, all of us in life, no matter if you're in a sales position or not, in some way or another, you're selling, yourself. Whether that's low skill and anybody could do it, you're selling your time being the fry guy at McDonald's, right? You're selling yourself. It's just you've only got a very low skill set, right? And where the opportunity comes in is how do I change my life to where I'm prepared for the next opportunity, or I'm prepared to even mentally recognize opportunities and therefore level up my life into the next step, the next phase, progress forward, however you want to look at it. Here we say a lot of, let's fail forward. Let's take that 1% step, or, we'll try for a 5% step. But if we fall on our face, we might fail forward at 1%. And sometimes we even step back because we do something, really screwed up. Hopefully less and less of that over time. But again, we regroup and we try to fail forward again, like, hey, we're going to take our best shot. It doesn't have to be the perfect answer, but it's a better answer than the one we have today. And if you can take that from, 14, 15 years old, trying to figure out mindset, to car lot, to, solar sales, and here you are at 24? 25?
Yep.
As a regional sales manager for a $30 million company, you've definitely taken those next steps. You've leveled up your game along the way. And so if we can look at all of life and just say, hey, if there's pain or if there's an opportunity to sell or whatever it is, and then prepare yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually
to receive that, right?
To receive that and to claim it as an opportunity, then you're going to have that chance to do so, because it's going to present itself in your life when you've taken the time to prepare.
Yeah, it's like you're opening yourself up to receive things like Grayson was just talking about, all the different opportunities to come your way. The mindset is I'm ready and willing to do it, as opposed to I think the opposite mindset of that is just letting things happen to you, as opposed to hoping and planning and thinking on the things that you're trying to accomplish.
Yep.
Yeah, and even like if you're comparing, the starter job of working McDonald's to a college graduate, the preparation that they do is their degree. Whether or not you like college, I'm not a big fan of college degrees at this point. I think the world's changed, and that's really a thing of the past. But at least they're preparing for something. They're trying to level up their game in some way. I mean, that's better than just being stagnant at the fry guy job, right? If you can move towards sales or business ownership, I think those are really the two best places to be in life if you're looking to make money. If money's not your jam, you might be more fulfilled by being a counselor or something. But in one way or another, prepare yourself for the opportunity that's going to present itself. Get yourself ready for it so that when that opportunity happens, boom, you're on top of it, you recognize it, and you see it. And so if I say infinite opportunities, there are infinite opportunities. It's just a matter of where you're at.
A matter of mindset, right?
Yeah, it's a matter of mindset. And for me, I've trained myself for so long now that I can't see anything but opportunity. And I have new business ideas, multiple times a week.
Yeah.
What's interesting? You remember that movie? I don't know if you guys ever seen that movie, Yes Man, with Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Remember that? Had that whole guru guy. It's like, just start saying yes to things. Just start saying yes to things, and all of a sudden, all these opportunities that come around. Where he met this girlfriend, right, and he started doing all these activities that he started enjoying, and started building relationships with his friends, and started getting new job opportunities. But it's so true though, right?
Yeah.
If you just start saying yes to opportunity, start looking for it and inviting it into your life, and start having the courage to walk towards it, then you start changing your mind towards it and start experiencing success.
On a personal level, that's actually like that yes thing, is saying yes to things, is kind of hits me on a personal level, because I spent most of my life, I spent most of my life like feeling like and thinking I'm an outsider, right? Mm-hmm. And I still don't think of myself as completely like average.
Oh yeah, not at all.
But
and you're definitely not. I don't think I am. I don't think Roman is. I don't think you are.
I'm definitely above average.
I just see it as different, right? We're all different.
Yeah.
But I view myself as an outsider, not just not normal, like just kind of as an outsider. And because of that's what manifested in my life. I wasn't the guy that got invited to do many of the fun things or go to the parties or do this or do that, because I was just kind of like all up in my head.
Same.
And claiming a different space, right?
Yep.
And now that's not the case. Now I'm just like, yeah, I don't care if anybody invites me to a party, because I'm just going to throw a frickin' party.
Yeah, it comes down to the things that you pay attention to and the things that you care about, right? I remember when I was younger too, having this conversation with my mom about the types of conversations that like levels of intelligence have, right? And so lower levels of intelligence talk about people, and then the next level of intelligence talks about things, and then the next level of intelligence talks about ideas.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't like talking about people or things. I like talking about...
Unless it's cars.
I'll talk about some cars. Yeah, I will talk about some cars. And I honestly didn't used to be that way either.
Yeah.
It's only been recently that I've gotten like really into cars, but in general, for the most part, like if I do go to a party, most of the conversation that's being had is about people or it's about things. It's about something that has just
ideas.
occurred,
And
right?
I know you well enough to know that you're probably going to end up talking about manifestation and mindset and spirituality.
Or business
in some way.
opportunities
Business,
or
yeah.
mindset. Exactly, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk about theory. I want to talk shop. I want to talk about ideas, and I want to talk about how we're all going to get better.
Yeah. And so, guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. And just with this is to say that, infinite opportunities are everywhere around you. Just take the time to, put the right type of talk in your head so that when those opportunities present themselves, you're ready to leap on top of it and take advantage of it and really, squeeze every drop of juice out of it. Because, they're going to come at you, and some of them are going to be, big and juicy, and some are going to just be a little drip. But there is opportunities every time you turn around if you're just willing to look at it and embrace it in personal relationships, in business, in sales opportunities. You just have to be ready.
Have the courage to take that step, the first step towards it, because it really takes that.
The courage for the step that you have to take is to look inside first.
Yeah, that is exactly it. Yep. You have to look inside, like, I should do this. I should start moving. I should start preparing myself, whatever I need to do for whatever you want.
Yeah.
I would also say real quick too that being that infinite opportunities exist, if you passively wait for them to come to you, you're going to find a smaller amount than if you go actively pursue opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's take the step, start moving.
When you see it, you have to activate and put yourself in motion and really go attack it. Because if you don't, then you're just letting it pass you by. And I think that's what, most people do is they're like, oh, that would be so cool, but I could never do it.
Yeah.
Right. That's their self-speak.
Fear of failure or fear of success.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah. Self-sabotage is a thing for sure. I self-sabotaged, I think, for a long time, a lot of my life where I wouldn't do the optimal thing because, I didn't feel good about myself somewhere inside.
Yeah.
So you have to change that.
Didn't have the inner confidence.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. And thank you, monsters. Let's go out there and just do the internal fight to figure out where you're failing to recognize opportunity to grow, opportunity in sales, opportunity in business, and go out there and kill it.